Hello, chat. Hello, chat. Hi. Hi, chat. Hi, chat. Hello. Hello. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. It's been a second. It's been a tiny minute. Second time. Something. I don't know that. Hello. It's better. It's better now. It's definitely better now. I wanted to write to you about this. I finally paid for it today. Finally paid for it today. Uh, I'm good. I'm good. I need to just check my shit. Music is a wee loud. Okay. Like this. Like this. Better. Is it better? Should should hope it's better. Okay. Cool. Cool. Save. Write something. Alright. Yeah. Okay, what is this? Why is my chat again not working? I don't get it. Periodically, just sometimes shit just breaks. Apparently, shit just breaks. Okay. Okay. I'm just tired of this. Chat, motherfucking chat. I'm just tired of you, chat. I'm tired of it periodically breaking without me absolutely having no clue what is the cause. Okay. Test. Let's test again. No? Oh, okay. Okay, sure. Let's test for sure. Yeah! 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 Motherfucking. Okay, we're done. Hey, Link! Killer! Don't kill me, Camille, killer! Kill me, killer! Thank you, Nightbot. Thank you, Nightbot. I appreciate it. I am tired. Hello, tired. I am chat. I get it. I was faster than you, chat. I'm just tired and making dumb stuff, and talking. I'm just tired and I'm talking dumb stuff. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome. Welcome, so to speak. I do need to get a different music in before I start reading today. I do need to do in a different get in a different music before I start today. Okay, let's lower my voice to an appropriate ASMR quality because apparently that is a thing you have to do. Okay, does that sound alright? Does that sound alright? I think that sounds alright. Okay, yep, should be quite alright. Okay. I'm gonna be talking very softly today because, you know, ASMR tag, it's there. So I sort of have to speak like I am currently sitting in a room which is adjacent to someone else's room and people in there are sleeping. So I sort of have to speak that softly. Like I have to imitate speaking softly as if there is a person sleeping next door. Sort of how people I remember spoke about in ASMR streams. So That's how I will be speaking myself. So welcome everybody. Today we will be reading a book. Actually, I thought about what kind of book we should be reading, and after consideration, I decided to do the same thing I wanted to do before, which is read Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment. Yes. Read online. We're gonna be reading this very quiet. We're very good. You don't really need to talk to me, honestly, at this point. Fuck me. Why is it so white? Can I change it to black? I don't like punishment for Fyodor Dostoevsky. Fyodor. Okay, that's good, I guess. Yeah, that's good. Translations preface. Yes. Okay. That should be quite alright. Okay, that should be quite alright. So, everybody, we will be reading some Crime and Punishment. Let me. Do you think my BGM is good for reading, or should I get some jazz music for now? Which would be the perfect option? It's not going to be a long stream because A, I'm already kind of late, and B, it's just going to be one chapter. Though, depends on how fast I read it, obviously. I do need your opinion, chat. Like, genuinely. So, please, someone do tell me if a more smooth jazz kind of music would be more appropriate. You can use the TTS command if you want to. I'm kind of surprised nobody uses TTS anymore. It's like it's simple, just saying like you.
Stinky.
Like it's very simple. I don't get it why. People don't even want to be waifu, I guess.
Jazz is nice, but whatever you feel like.
Okay, jazz is nice. Yeah, I think I will switch. Thank you, Hati. Thank you, Hati. Okay, so let me see Discord. Yeah, well, I can easily change it right now to this. Just got a comment. Oh. I just got a comment from like a person who was reacting to the latest songs from Niji Sanji with Ike, Kagami, and what's her face, Fish, Finana, and it was like, and they were like going, "Oh, Nocturnal Bloodlust Tyrant is such a long song name." To which I replied, "Nocturnal Bloodlust is the title of the group, and the Tyrant is the title of the song." To which I got a single reply of, "Oh." Oh my god. Oh my god. People these days. Okay, so for reading. Okay. That should do it. That should do it. Let me see. Yes. Yes. How's that? Okay, checking, checking, checking. Is the sound alright? My voice sounds perfect in comparison. Should I lower it a little bit? Should I up it a little bit? I do want to hear your opinion on the matter. If you have anything to say right now. Sound up, down? Or just perfect the way it is? If it is okay, I will be starting to read. If it's not perfect, I will adjust it a little bit. Though I'd like to know your opinion. Hmm. Alrighty, alrighty. Let's see this. Okay, I forgot to do something, by the way. Which I'm gonna correct right now. Before we continue. Yes, that should do it. That should do it. Yes, yes. Do you hear the music all right? You hear the music. All right. Perfect. 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 Okay. Okay, that should be perfect then. Let me lower the music here a little bit. All right. Okay. Should I start then? Should I start then? This should be Should I start with the ASMR session, so to speak? It's gonna be chapter 1 of Crime and Punishment. I'm not gonna show it. I'm not gonna show it on screen because whatever. I think it's fair. It's fair that I am the one who's reading to you. So, if you want to follow along, it's chapter 1 of Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Fyodor Dostoevsky. Okay. Feel free to tell me if you have any problems hearing me or music, or if I should adjust, or if I should detract. Whatever you want to tell me, please tell me. You can use the command exclamation points say to speak to me through TTS, or not, or just post a comment. I will be reading them periodically anyway. On that note, I think we should start. On an exceptionally hot evening early in July, a young man came out of a garret in which he longed in place, and walked slowly, as though in hesitation, towards K Bridge. He had successfully avoided meeting his landlady on the staircase. His garret was under the roof of a high, 5-storied house, and it was more like a cupboard than a room. The landlady, who provided him with garret, dinners, and attendance, lived on the floor below, and every time he went out, he was obliged to pass her kitchen, the door of which invariably stood open. And each time he passed, the young man had a sick, frightening feeling which made him scowl and feel ashamed. He was hopelessly in debt to his landlady and was afraid of meeting her. This was not because he was cowardly and abject, quite the contrary. But for some time past he had been in an overstrained, irritable condition, verging on hypochondria. He had become so completely absorbed in himself and isolated from his fellows that he dreaded meeting not only his landlady, but anyone at all. He was crushed by poverty, but the anxieties of his position had of late ceased to wait upon him. He had given up attending to matters of practical importance. He had lost all desire to do so. Nothing that any landlady could do had any real terror for him. But to be stopped on the stairs, to be forced to listen to her trivial, irrelevant gossip, to pestering demands for payments, threats and complaints, and to rack his brains for excuses, to prevaricate, to lie, no. Rather than that, he would creep down the stairs like a cat and slip out unseen. This evening, however, on coming out into the street, he became acutely aware of his fears. I want to attempt a thing like that, and I'm frightened by these trifles, he thought, with an odd smile. Yes, all is in a man's hands, and he lets it all slip from cowardice. That's an axiom. It would be interesting to know that it is okay. Let me actually a little bit like this, yeah. Okay. It would be interesting to know what it is men are most afraid of. Taking a new step, uttering a new word, is what they mere fear most. But I'm talking too much. It's because I chatter that I do nothing. Or perhaps it is that I chatter because I do nothing. I've learned to chatter this last month, lying for days together in my den, thinking of Jack the Giant Killer. Why am I going there now? Am I capable of that? Is that serious? Is that not serious at all? It is not serious at all. It's simply a fantasy to amuse myself. A plaything. Maybe it is a plaything. The heat in the street was terrible, and the airlessness, the bustle and the plaster, scaffolding, bricks and dust all about him, and that special Petersburg stench so familiar to all who were unable to get out of town in summer, all worked painfully upon the young man's already overwrought nerves. The insufferable stench from the pothouses, which are I lost my name, particularly numerous in that part of the town, and the drunken men whom he met continually, although it was a working day, completed the revolting misery of a picture. An expression of the profoundest disgust gleamed for a moment in the young man's refined face. He was, by the way, exceptionally handsome, above the average in height, slim, well-built, with a beautiful dark eyes and brown hair. Soon he sank deep into thought. Or more accurately, speaking into a complete blankness of mind. He walked along, not observing what was about him and not caring to observe. From time to time, he would mutter something, from the habit of talking to himself, to which he had just confessed. At these moments, he would become conscious that his ideas were sometimes in a tangle, and that he was very weak. For 2 days he had scarcely tasted food. He was so badly dressed that even a man accustomed to shabbiness would have been ashamed to be seen in the streets in such rags. In that quarter of town, however, scarcely any shortcoming in dress would have been created surprise. Owing to proximity to the hay market, the number of establishments of bad character, the preponderance of the trading and working class populations crowded in these streets, and the alleys in the heart of Petersburg, types of various were to be seen in the streets, that no figure, however queer, would have caused surprise. But there was such an accumulated bitterness and contempt in the young man's heart that, in spite of all the fastidiousness of youth, he minded his rags least of all in the street. It was a different matter when he met with acquaintances, or with former fellow students, whom indeed he disliked meeting at any time, And yet, when drunken man, who for some unknown reason was being taken somewhere in a huge wagon, dragged by a heavy hay horse, suddenly shouted at him as he drove past, "Hey there, German hatter!" bawling at the top of his voice and pointed at him. The young man stopped suddenly and clutched tremulously at his hat. It was a tall, round hat from Zimmerman's, but completely worn out, rusty with age, old turn, and British patch. I was called, pardon. Okay. Hi there. Hey there, German hatter. Bowling at the top of her voice and pointed at him. The young man stopped suddenly and clutched tremulously. This is the second time I'm reading it wrong. I'm so dumb. It was a tall round hat from Zimmerman's, but completely worn out, rusty, with age, all-torn and bespattered, brimless and bent on one side in a mostly unseemly fashion. Not shame, however, but quite another feeling akin to terror had overtaken him. "I knew it," he muttered in confusion. "I thought so. That's the worst of all. Why, a stupid thing like this. The most trivial detail might spoil the whole plan. Yes, my hat is too noticeable. It looks absurd, and that makes it so noticeable. With my rags, I ought to wear a cap. Any sort of old pancake, but not this grotesque thing. Nobody wears such a hat. It would be noticed a mile off. It would be remembered. What matters is that people would remember it, and that would give them a clue. For this business, one should be as little conspicuous as possible. Trifles are what matter. Why, it's such trifles that always ruin everything." He had not far to go. He knew indeed how many steps it was from the gate of his lodging house, exactly 730. He had counted them once when he had been lost in his dreams. At the time, he had put no faith in those dreams and was only tantalizing himself by their hideous but daring recklessness. Now, a month later, he had begun to look upon them indifferently, and in spite of the monologues in which he jeered at his own impotence and indecision, he had involuntarily come to regard this hideous dream as an exploit to be attempted, although he still did not realize this himself. He was positively going for for a rehearsal of his project, and at very step his excitement grew more and more violent. With a sinking heart and enormous tremor, he went up a huge house which on one side looked onto a canal and on the other into the street. This house was let out in tiny tenements and was inhabited by working people of all kinds: tailors, locksmiths, cooks, Germans of sorts, girls picking up a living as best as they could, petty clerks, etc. There was a continual coming and going through the two gates and in the two country yards of the house. 3 or 4 doorkeepers were employed on the building. The young man was very glad to meet none of them, and at once slipped unnoticed through the door on the right and up the staircase. It was a black staircase, dark and narrow, but he was familiar with it already, and he knew his way, and he liked all the surroundings. In such darkness, even the most inquisitive eyes were not to be dreaded. "If I am so scared now, what would it be if I somehow came to pass that I were really going to do it?" He could not help asking himself as he reached the 4th story. His progress was barred by some porters who were engaged in moving furniture out of a flat. He knew that the flat had been occupied by a German clerk in the civil service and his family. This German was moving out then, and so the 4th floor on the staircase would be untenanted, except by the old woman. "That's a good thing anyway," he thought to himself as he rang the bell of the old woman's flat. The bell gave a faint tickle as though it were made of tin and not copper. The little flats in such houses always have bells that ring like that. He had forgotten to note of that bell, and now its peculiar tinkle seemed to remind him of something and to bring it clearly before him. He started, his nerves were terribly overstrained by now. In a little while, the door was open a tiny crack. The old woman eyed her visitor with evident distrust through the crack, and nothing could be seen but her little eyes glittering in the darkness. But seeing a number of people on the landing, she grew bolder and opened the door wide. The young man stepped into the dark entry, which was partitioned off from the tiny kitchen. The old woman stood facing him in silence and looking inquiringly at him. She was a diminutive, withered-up old woman of 60, with sharp, malignant eyes and a sharp little nose. Her colorless, somewhat grizzled hair was thickly smeared with oil, and she wore no kerchief over it. Round her thin long neck, which looked like a hen's leg, was knotted some sort of flannel rag. In spite of the heat, there were hunt flapping under her shoulders, a mangy fur cape, yellow with age. The woman coughed and groaned at every instant. The young man must have looked at her with rather peculiar expression, for a gleam of mistrust came into her eyes. Raskolnikov, a student, I came here a month ago. The young man made a haste to mutter with a half-bow, remembering that he ought to be more polite. I remember, my good sir. I remember quite. Yeah, well, you're coming here, the old woman said distinctly, still keeping her inquiring eyes on his face. And here I am again on the same errand, Raskolnikov continued, a little disconcerted and surprised at the old woman's mistrust. Perhaps she is always like this, though, only I did not notice it the other time, he thought with an uneasy feeling. The old woman paused as though hesitating, then stepped on the side and pointed to the door of the room. She said, letting her visitor pass in front of her, "Step in, my good sir." The little room into which the young man walked, with yellow papers on the wall, geraniums and muslin curtains in the windows, was brightly lighted up at the moment by the setting sun. So the sun will shine like this then too, flashed as if were by chance through Raskolnikov's mind, and with a rapid glance he scanned everything in the room, trying as far as possible to notice and remember its arrangements. But there was nothing special in the room. The furniture was all very old, and of yellow wood, consisted of a sofa with a huge bent wooden back, an oval table in front of the sofa, a dressing table with a looking glass fixed on and between the windows, chairs along the walls, and 2 or 3 halfpenny prints in yellow frames, representing German damsels with birds in their hands. That was all. In the corner, a light was burning before a small icon. Everything was clean. Everything was very clean. The floor and the furniture were brightly polished. Everything shone. Lizaveta's work, thought the young man. There was not a speck of dust to be seen in the whole flat. It's in the houses of spiteful old widows that one finds such cleanliness. Raskolnikov thought again, and he stole a curious glance at the cotton curtain over the door leading into another tiny room, in which stood the old woman's bed and chest of drawers, and into which he had never looked before. These 2 rooms made up a whole flat. "What do you want?" the old woman said severely, coming into a room and, as before, standing in front of him so as to look at him straight in the face. "I have brought something to pawn here." He drew out his pocket an old fashioned flat silver watch, on the back of which was engraved a globe. The chain was of steel. "But the time is up for your last pledge. The month was up the day before yesterday." I will bring you interest for another month. Wait a little. But that's for me to do as I please, my good sir, to wait or to sell your pledge at once. How much will you give me for the watch, Alyona Ivanovna? You come with such trifles, my good sir. It's scarcely worth anything. I gave you 2 rubles last time for your ring, and one could buy it quite new at the jeweler's for 1.50 rubles. Give me 4 rubles for it. I shall redeem it. It was my father's. I shall be gathering some money soon. 1.50 rubles, and interest in advance, if you like. 1.50 rubles, cried the young man. Please yourself. And the old woman handed him back the watch. The young man took it and was so angry that he was on the point of going away, but checked himself at once, remembering that there was nowhere else he could go, and that he had another object also in common. Hand it over, he said roughly. The woman fumbled in her pockets for her keys and disappeared behind the curtain into the other room. The young man, left standing alone in the middle of the room, listened inquisitively, thinking. He could hear her unlocking the chest of drawers. It must be the top drawer, he reflected. So she carries the keys in her pocket on the right, all in one bunch on the steel ring. And there's one key there, 3 times as big as the others, with deep notches. That can be the key of the chest of drawers. Then there must be some other chest of strong box. That's worth knowing. Strong boxes always have keys like that. But how degrading it all is. The old woman came back. Here, sir. As we say, 10 kopecheks, the ruble a month. So I must take 50 kopecheks from 1.50 rubles for the month in advance. But for the 2 rubles I lent you before, you owe me now 20 kopecheks on the same reckoning in advance. That makes 35 kopecheks altogether. So I must give you 1.15 kopecheks here for the watch. Here it is. What? Only 1.15 kopecheks now? Just so. The young man did not dispute it and took the money. He looked at the old woman, and was in no hurry to get away, as though there was still something he wanted to say or to do, but he did not himself quite know what. I may be bringing you something else in a day or two, Alyona Ivanovna. A valuable thing. Silver. A cigarette box. As soon as I get from a friend. He broke off in confusion. Well, we will talk about it then, sir. Goodbye. Are you always at home alone? Your sister is not here with you? He's asked as puzzled as possible, and he went on to the bathing. What business is she of yours, good sir? Oh, nothing particular. I simply asked. You are too quick. Good day, Alyona Ivanovna. Raskolnikov went out in complete confusion. This confusion became more and more intense. As he went down the stairs, he even spotted Short 2 or 3 times. He stopped short 2 or 3 times, as though suddenly struck by some thought. When he was in the street, he cried out, "Oh God, how loathsome it all is! And I can I possibly? No, it's nonsense, it's rubbish!" He added resolutely. And how could such atrocious thing come into my head? What filthy things in my heart is capable of? Yes, filthy above all, disgusting, loathsome! And for a whole month I've been... But no words, no exclamations could express his agitation. The feeling of intense repulsion which had begun to oppress and torture his heart while he was on his way to the old woman had by now reached such pitch and had taken such definite form that he did not know what to do with himself to escape from his wretchedness. He walked along the pavement like a drunken man, regardless of the passer-by, jostling against them, and only came to his senses when he was in the next street. Looking around, he noticed that he was standing close to a tavern, which was entered by steps leading from the pavement to the basement. And that instant, 2 drunken men came out of the door, and abusing and supporting one another, they mounted the steps. Without stopping to think, Raskolnikov went down the steps at once. Till that moment he had never been into a tavern, but now he felt giddy and was tormented by a burning thirst. He longed for a drink of cold beer, and attributed his sudden weakness to want of food. He sat down at a sickly little table in a dark and dirty corner, ordered some beer, and eagerly drank off the first glassful. At once he felt easier, and thoughts became clearer. All that nonsense, he said hopefully, and there is nothing in it to worry about it. It simply things physical derangement. Just a glass of beer, a piece of dry bread, and in one moment the brain is stronger, the mind is clearer, and the will is firm. Phew, how utterly petty it all is. But in spite of his scornful reflection, he was by now looking cheerful, as though he was suddenly set free from a terrible burden, and he gazed around in a friendly way at the people in the room. But even in that moment, he had a dim foreboding that this happier frame of mind was also not normal. There were few people at the time in the tavern, besides the two drunken men he had met on the steps. A group consisting of about 5 men and a girl with concertia had gone out at the same time. With concertina had gone at the same time. Their departure. Oh fuck! Someone followed me. Welcome, Living Yurei. Welcome, Onisama. I am reading a book right now.
Living Yuri is now following.
Apparently you were not following before. Welcome, welcome. If you want to reach me so I can actually hear you easier, I recommend you type. What? I did not say Onisama. I said Onisawa. No, I did not. I legitimately did not. Welcome, Living Yurei, and thank you for the follow. I'm the observer. Call me Theodore. Yeah, try to. I did not say it. Maybe I did. Maybe I missaid it something, but try to say it. Anyhow, if you want to speak to me right now, I am. Please type say ! Say so I can actually hear your comments. Yeah, we sailed together, but you did not follow me. You did not follow me, apparently. Tis the unfortunate nature of Twitch. We all forget to follow each other all the time. But yes, if you'd like to talk to me while I'm reading, so I can actually hear it correctly, use the command say, and I will hear it in a TTS form. That would be lovely if you do. Thank you. Okay, let's continue. The persons still in the tavern were a man who appeared to be an artisan, drunk but not extremely so, sitting before a pot of beer, and his companion, a huge stout man with a grey beard, in a short, full-skirted coat. He was very drunk, and had dropped asleep on the bench. Every now and then he began as though in his sleep cracking his fingers, with his wide arms wide apart, and the upper part of his body bounding up on the bench, while he hummed some meaningless refrain, trying to recall some such lines as these. His wife a year he fondly loved. His wife a year he fondly loved. Or suddenly waking up again. Walking along the crowded row, he met the one he used to know. But no one shared his enjoyment. His silent companion looked with positive hostility and mistrust at all these manifestations. There was another man in the room who looked somewhat like a retired governmental clerk. He was sitting apart now and then, sipping from his spot and looking round at the company. He too appeared to be in some agitation. Okay, that's first chapter.
It's in our friends chat now.
Okay. Had got it at the same time. Their departure. Oh fuck! Someone followed me. Welcome, Living Ray. Welcome, Anisama. I am reading.
Any words, big brother?
I genuinely misspoke. Like I genuinely misspoke. I did not notice I said that because I was going. I am not good at speaking, so I when
Say ara ara.
there is a redeem. If you want me to say ara ara, there is a redeem. And if you do not redeem, I will not ara ara.
I deserve one for free.
You do not deserve one for free. I do not know what you mean. Come on, it's like it's cheap. Just redeem it for posterity's sake.
Okay, Ototo.
You're younger than me, dipshit. Anyway. Yeah, you know what? Sure. Sure, whatever. I will redeem it, so. Sure. Okay.
Uranisama is proud of you.
Shut up. Yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna call you Oni. Onya. You're gonna be Onya. You're gonna be Onya for moving along. Gonna be Onya. One single Onya. Onya. Yeah, Onya. You're gonna be Onya.
Onion.
Yeah, exactly. You forced my hand. I did not want to make to give you a dumb nickname, but I'm gonna give you a dumb nickname. So Onion. Okay. Let me see. Thank you for friend nicknames. Onion. You are now officially Onion in my DMs. Yeah. You are now officially on the you are officially called Onion in my DMs. That is how you are called. You know, the funny thing is I tend to come up with these stupid nicknames completely on a spot. Considering the chapter ended up being shorter than I expected, we're gonna read another one. We're gonna read another chapter, and then we're gonna, I think, stop for now. I'm not gonna go too long. But before that, I'm gonna go grab a snack because I have not eaten today, this entire day. So that's something to note. I have not eaten today, so yes. Give me but a moment, please.
That's so bad.
Sucking Tom Cruise sisters is now following.
And I'm back. Welcome. I gotta make it wet. Thank you. Thank you for the thank you for the follow. Nut. Thank you for the follow, Nut. Thank you for the follow. Sucking Tom Cruise's nuts. Excuse me. Okay. Thank you for the follow, Nut. I guess. Oh God. The fuck is this? What? Why is such a specific? What was that? Why is this such a specific
Hi,
name?
Oopsie, can you fit these nuts in your hands?
Sure. You didn't even do a build up there. I'm disappointed, Arnie. Don't threaten me with a good time there, Arnie. I genuinely like these nuts. I know you didn't. I know you didn't. Bummer name. Well, if you'd like to, you can sit here with me, listen to me nom on chocolate. And then, after that, I'm gonna read you a book. Because that is what I'm doing today. We are reading a classical literature piece. Oh, you also got chocolate. Okay, nom on chocolate. Chocolate juice.
What is your fave type of chocolate?
Black. High levels of cacao. Less sweet and more.
Interesting, I love it.
Yeah. I don't enjoy too much sweetness. Still, sweet chocolate can be good. It most definitely can be very good. Milk chocolate with hazelnuts.
Though I have chocolate. But if I had to take, only cause I hate sweet.
I don't hate sweetness, perhaps. But I do just like overly sweet.
Only black chocolate, I meant.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Oh, by the way, chat, I wanted to show you something that I will be using further. Actually, I'm going to use this opportunity to do so. Because some people might have not be able to... Kila, a person in the chat before, she did something for me, which I appreciate her doing for me. Gonna show this here. Okay, there you go. Why so long? Okay. I'm going to show this. Okay. And I'm gonna show this right now. Let me see. This is the PNG I'm going to be using most likely for collaboration sakes right now. These are my casual fits. With very casual clothes. I thought you'd like to see. It's rather nice. Of course. Always the gentleman. Of course, that is the prerogative here. I'm always the gentleman. Quite the wonderful picture, I'd say. It's also big. Very big, very big. So I hope you enjoy that. Oh, Tom Observer, so to speak. Because I do believe that I am quite capable of being a gentleman, even during my times where I'm like completely casual about my clothing. I especially enjoy the touch of a loose hair, because I find myself rather charming with loose hair. If that is something I can even say. I'm sure finding myself charming has nothing to do with narcissism. Especially if you receive custom-made art special for you. Alas, I have returned. Alas, I am returned. How one particular Elden Lord has said before.
Brain is tired. Brain go skrrrrttt.
Don't worry, brain is tired for me as well. I'm not exactly fully conscious, because I'm tired. So, before we continue with the book, I want to quickly discuss how much of a normal person I am. So, as a normal person, I woke up today at around 6 p.m. time. As a normal person, I decided to then go to shower and do everything as a completely normal person. Then I successfully forgotten to eat like a normal person. And I had since tried to... I had played a few games since then. I had successfully forgotten that I have a stream like a normal person. And I also successfully managed to get incredibly late to said stream. And now I'm here. As you can see, I read the first chapter because I did not account for the fact that the first chapter would be so little. So I need to change my tactics a little bit and read another chapter. And as noted by people who probably listen to me reading, I'm still imperfect in terms of reading the books. I tend to stumble over my words sometimes. I tend to misread some certain things occasionally. I am still finding out my narrator space, so to speak. Because it's been a while since I actually read things out loud. It's been a long while since I've read things out loud. So now I'm just getting used to the skill of doing so again. Even then, I did not read anything in English. I could potentially do it like very easily in Russian right now. But obviously English is my second language. Second language. So it will take me a while to get acquainted with reading once more. I think the only time before I narrated something was during my donathon that happened at the start of the year, which I successfully managed to read, but I didn't forgot to. But then I accidentally deleted the VOD from it, so that was suffering. That did not leave its mark on the universe, so to speak. Oh well, let's continue. Let's continue on with chapter 2. I'm gonna continue on. Please enjoy. This is chapter 2 of Crime and Punishment. Hope you can understand my scuffed reading sometimes. Raskolnikov was not used to crowds, and, as if we said before, he avoided society of every sort, more especially of late. But now, all at once, he felt the desire to be with other people. Something new seems to be taking place within him, and with it he felt a sort of thirst for company. He was so weary after a whole month of concentrated wretchedness and gloomy excitement that he longed to rest, if only for a moment, in some other world, whatever it may be. And, in spite of its filthiness, in spite of the filthiness of the surroundings, he was glad now to stay in the tavern. The master of the establishment was in another room, but he frequently came down some steps into the main room, his jaunty, tarred boots, with the red turnover tops coming into view each time before the rest of his person. He wore a full coat and a horribly greasy black satin waistcoat, with no cravat, and his whole face seemed smeared with oil like an iron lock. At the counter stood a boy of about 14, and there was another boy, somewhat younger, who handed whatever he was wanted. On the counter lay some sliced cucumber, some pieces of dried black bread, and some fish, chopped up small, all smelling very bad. It was insufferably close, and so heavy with the fumes of spirits that 5 minutes in such an atmosphere might well make a man drunk. There are chance meetings with strangers that interest us from the first moments before a word is spoken. Such was the impression made on Raskolnikov by the person sitting a little distance from him, who looked like a retired clerk. The young man often recalled this impression afterwards, and even ascribed it to presentiment. He looked repeatedly at the clerk, partly no doubt because the latter was staring persistently at him, obviously anxious to enter into conversation. At the other persons in the room, including the tavern keeper, the clerk looked as though he were used to their company and wary of it, showing a shade of condescending contempt for them as persons of station and culture inferior to his own, with whom it would be useless for him to converse. He was a man over 50, bald and grizzled, of medium height, and stoutly built. His face, bloated from continual drinking, was of yellow, even greenish tinge, with swollen eyelids out of which keen reddish eyes gleamed like little chinks. But there was something very strange in him. There was a light in his eyes, as though of an intense feeling. Perhaps there were even thought and intelligence, but at the same time there was a gleam of something like madness. He was wearing an old and hopelessly ragged black dress coat, with all its buttons missing except one, and that one he had buttoned, evidently clinging to this last trace of respectability. A crumpled shirt front, covered with spots and stains, protruded from his canvas waistcoat. Like a clerk, he wore no beard nor moustache, but had been so long unshaven that his chin looked like a stiff greyish brush. And there was something respectable and like an official about his manner too, but he was restless. He ruffled up his hair, and from time to time let his head drop into his hand dejectedly, resting his ragged elbows on the stained and sticky table. At last he looked straight at Raskolnikov and said loudly and irresolutely, "May I venture, honored sir, to engage you in a polite conversation? For as much as, though your exterior would not command respect, my experience admonishes me that you are a man of education and not accustomed to drinking. I have always respected education when in conjunction with genuine sentiments, and I am besides a titular consular in rank. Marmeladov, such is my name, titular consular. I may bold to inquire, have you been in the service?" No, I'm studying, answered the young man, somewhat surprised at the grandiloquent style of the speaker, and also at being so directly addressed. In spite of the momentary desire he had just been feeling for the company of any sorts, on being actually spoken to, he felt immediately his habitual, irritable, and uneasy aversion for any stranger who approached or attempted to approach him. A student then, or formerly a student, cried the clerk. Just what I thought. I'm a man of experience, immense experience, sir. And he tapped his forehead with his fingers in self-approval. You've been a student, have attended some learned institutions, but allow me. He got up, staggered, took up his jug and glass, and sat down beside the young man, facing him a little sideways. He was drunk, but spoke fluently and boldly, only occasionally losing the thread of his sentences and drawing his words. He pounced upon Raskolnikov as greedily as though he too had not spoken to a soul for a month. Honored sir, he began almost with solemnity. Poverty is not a vice, that's a true saying, yet I know too that drunkenness is not a virtue, and that's not even truer. But beggary, honored sir, beggary is a vice. In poverty, you may still retain your innate nobility of soul, but in beggary, never, not no one. For beggary, a man is not chased out of human society with a stick, he is swept out with a broom, so as to make it as humiliating as possible. And quite right, too, for as much as in beggary I am ready to be the first to humiliate myself. Hence the pothouse. Honored sir, a month ago Mr. Lebeznikov gave me my wife a beating, and my wife is a very different matter from me. Do you understand? Allow me to ask you another question out of simple curiosity. Have you ever spent a night on a hay barge on a Neva? No, I've not happened to, answered Raskolnikov. What do you mean? Well, I've just come from one, and it's fifth night I've slept so. He filled his glass, emptied it, and paused. Bits of hay were in fact clinging to his clothes and sticking to his hair. It seemed quite probable that he had not undressed or washed for the last 5 days. His hands particularly were filthy. They were fat and red with black nails. His conversation seems to excite a general through languid interest. The boys at the corner fell to sniggering. The innkeeper came down from the upper room, apparently on purpose to listen to the funny fellow, and sat down at a little distance, yawning lazily, but with dignity. Evidently Marmeladov was a familiar figure here, and he had most likely acquired his weakness for high-flown speeches from the habit of frequently entering into conversation with strangers of all sorts in the tavern. This habit develops into a necessity in some drunkards, and especially in those who are looked upon after sharply and kept in order at home. Hence, in the company of other drinkers, they just try to justify themselves and even if possibly obtain consideration. Funny fellow, pronounced the innkeeper. And why don't you work? Why aren't you at your duty, if you are in service? Why am I not at my duty, honored sir? Marmeladov went on, addressing himself exclusively to Raskolnikov, and though it has been he who put that question to him, why am I not at my duty? Does not my heart ache to think what a useless warl I am? I ache. Okay, a month ago, when Mr. Lebeziatnikov beat my wife with my own hands. I lay drunk. Didn't I suffer? Excuse me, young man. Has it ever happened to you? Well, to petition hopelessly for a loan? Yes, it has. But what do we mean hopelessly? Hopelessly in the fullest sense, when you know beforehand you will get nothing by it. You know, for instance, beforehand with positive certainty that this man, this most reputable and exemplary citizen, will own no consideration give you money. And indeed, I ask you, why should he? For he knows, of course, that I shan't pay it back. From compassion? But Mr. Lebeziatnikov, who keeps up with modern ideas, explained the other day that compassion is forbidden nowadays by science itself, and that's what what is done now in England, where there is political economy. Why, I ask you, should he give it to me? And yet, though I know beforehand that he won't, I set it off to him. And why do you go? Put in Raskolnikov. Well, when one has no one, nowhere else no one can go. For every man must have somewhere to go, since there are times when absolutely must go somewhere. When my own daughter first went out with a yellow ticket, when I had to go, for my daughter has a yellow passport, he had added in parentheses, looking with a certain uneasiness at the younger man. No matter, sir, no matter, he went on hurriedly, and with apparent composure, but both the boys at the counter guffawed, and even the innkeeper smiled. No matter, I'm not confounded by the wagging of their heads, for everyone knows everything about it already, and all that is secret is made open. I accept it all, not with contempt, but with humility. So be it, so be it. Behold the man. Excuse me, young man, can you? No, to put it more strongly and more distinctly, not can you, but dare you, looking upon me, assert that I'm not a pig? The young man did not answer a word. Well, the orator began again, stolidly, and with even increased dignity, after waiting for the laughter in the room to subside. Well, so be it, I'm a pig, but she is a lady. I have the semblance of a beast, but the Katerina Ivanovna, my spouse, is a person of education and an officer's daughter. Granted, I'm a scoundrel, but she is a woman of a noble heart, full of sentiments, refined by education, and yet, oh, if only she felt for me. Honored sir, you know, every man ought to have at least one place where people feel for him. But Katerina Ivanovna, though she is magnanimous, she is unjust. And yet, although I realize that when she pulls my hair, she only does it out of pity, for I repeat without being ashamed, she pulls my hair, young man, he declared, with a redoubled dignity, hearing this sniggering again. But my God, if she would but once, but no, it's all in vain, and it's no use talking. For more than once my wish did come true, and more than once she had felt for me, but such is a fate, and I am a beast by nature. Rather, assented the innkeeper, yawning. Marmeladov struck his fist resolutely at the table. Such is my fate. Do you know, sir? Do you know? I have sold her the very stockings for drink. Nor her shoes, that would be more of a less in order of things, but her stockings, I have sold for drink. Her mohair I sold for drink. A present to her long ago, her own property, not mine. And we live in a cold room, and she caught cold this winter, and has begun coughing and spitting blood too. We have 3 little children, and Katerina Ivanovna is at work from morning till night. She is scrubbing, cleaning, and washing the children, for she's been used to cleanliness from a child. But her chest is weak, and she has tendency to consumption, and I feel it. Do you suppose I don't feel it? And the more I drink, the more I feel it. That's why I drink too. I try to find sympathy and feeling in drink. I drink so that I might suffer twice as much. And as though he despaired, he laid his head down on the table. Young man, he went on, raising his hand again. In your face, I seem to read some trouble of mind. When you came in, I read it. And that was why I addressed it. I addressed you at once, for in unfolding to you the story of my life, I do not wish to make myself a laughingstock before these idle listeners, who indeed know all about it already, but I am looking for a man of feeling and education. Know then that my wife was educated in a high-class school for the daughters of noblemen, and on leaving she danced the shawl dance before the governor and other patronages, for which she was presented with a gold medal and a certificate of merit. The medal of course was sold long ago. But the certificate of merit is in her trunk still, and not long ago she showed it to our landlady. And although she is most continually on bad terms with the landlady, yet she wanted to tell someone or other of her past honors, and of the happy days that are gone. I don't condemn her for it, I don't blame her, for the one thing left is her recollection of the past, and all the rest is dust and ashes. Yes, she is a lady of spirit, proud and determined. She scrubs the floors herself and has nothing but black bread to eat, but won't allow herself to be treated with disrespect. That's why she would not overlook Mr. Lezebnikov's rudeness to her, and so when he gave her a beating for it, she took to her bed more from her more from the hurt to her feelings than from the blows. She was a widow when I married her, with 3 children, one smaller than the other. She married her first husband, an infantry officer, for love, and ran away from him from her father's house. She was exceedingly fond of her husband, but he gave away to cards, got into trouble, and with that, he died. He used to beat her at the end, and although she paid him back, of which I had authentic documentary evidence, to this day she speaks of him with tears, and she throws him up to me, and I'm glad that the only imagination should think of herself as having once been happy. And she was left at his death with 3 children in a wild and remote district where I happened to be at the time. And she was left in such hopeless poverty that although I have seen many ups and downs of all sorts, I don't feel equal to describe it even. Her relations had all thrown her off. And she was proud too, excessively proud, and then honored her, and then I, being at the time a widower with a daughter of 14, left me by my first wife, offered her my hand, for I could not bear the sight of such suffering. Can judge the extremity of her calamities that she, a woman of education and culture and distinguished family, should have considered to be my wife. But she did. Weeping and sobbing and wringing her hands, she married me. For she had nowhere to turn. Do you understand, sir? Do you understand what it means when you have absolutely nowhere to turn? No, that you don't understand yet. And for a whole year I performed my duty conscientiously and faithfully. I did not touch this. He tapped the jug with his finger. For I have feelings, but even so, I could not please her. And then I lost my place too, and that through no fault of mine, but through changes in the office. And then I did touch it. It will be a year and a half soon since we found ourselves at last, after many wanderings and numerous calamities, in this magnificent capital, adorned with innumerable monuments. Here I obtained a situation. I obtained it, and I lost it again. Do you understand? This time it was through my own fault I lost it, for my weakness had come out. We have now part of a room at Amelia Fyodorovna Leprikassel's. Leprikassel's. Okay, I don't really know how to read it in English. Thank you for the headpats, by the way. Thank you for the headpats, I appreciate it. And what we lived upon and what we pay our rent with, I could not say. There are a lot of people living there besides ourselves. Dirt and disorder, a perfect bedlam. Yes. And meanwhile, my daughter, by my first wife, had grown up. And what my daughter has had to put up with from her stepmother while she was growing up, I won't speak of. For, though Katerina Ivanovna is full of generous feelings, she is a spirited lady, irritable and short-tempered. Yes, but it's no use going over that. Sonia, as you may well fancy, has had no education. I did make an effort 40 years ago to give her a course of geography and universal history. But as I was not very well in those subjects myself, and we had no suitable books, and what books we had... Anyway, we had not even those now, so all our instruction came to an end. We stopped at Cyrus of Persia. Since she had attained years of maturity, she had read other books of romantic tendency, and of late she had read with great interest a book she got through Mr. Lezebnikov, Lewis' Psychology. Do you know it? He even recounted extracts from it to us. And that's the whole of her education. And now, may I venture to address the honored sir on my own account with a private question? Do you suppose that a respectable poor girl can earn much by honest work? Not 15 farthings a day can she earn. If she is respectable and has no special talent, and that without putting her work down for an instant. And what's more, Ivan Ivanovich Klopstock, the civil councillor, have you heard of him? Has not to this day paid her for a half-dozen linen shirts she made him, and drove her roughly away, stamping and reviling her on the pretext that the shirt collars were not made like the pattern and were put in askew. And there are the little ones hungry, and Katerina Ivanovna walking up and down and wringing her hands, her cheeks flush red as they always are in that disease. Here you live with us, she says. You eat and drink and are kept warm, and you do nothing to help. and much she gets to eat and drink when there's not a crust for the little ones. For 3 days, I was lying at the time. Well, what of it? I was lying drunk, and I heard my Sonia speaking. She's a gentle creature with a soft little voice, fair hair, and such pale, thin face, little face. She said, Katrina Ivanovna, I am really to do a thing like that. And Daria Frantsova, a woman of evil character and very well known to the police, had 2 or 3 times tried to get at her through the landlady. And why not? Said Katerina Ivanovna with a jeer. You are something mighty precious to be careful of. But don't blame her, honest sir, don't blame her. She was not herself when she spoke, but driven to distraction by her illness and crying of the hungry children, and it was said more to wound her than anything else. For that's Katerina Ivanovna's character. And when children cry, even from hunger, she falls to beating them once more. At 6 o'clock, I saw Sonia get up, put on her kerchief and her cape, and go out to the room, and about 9 o'clock she came back. She walked straight up to Katerina Ivanovna, and she laid 30 rubles on the table before her in silence. She did not utter words, she did not even look at her, so she simply picked up our big green... Oh, wow. Blair VT, welcome everybody. Welcome. I am currently reading a book.
Blair traded my stream
Welcome. I am the Observer. Call me Theodore. I am the eternal librarian. I am the master of my own library. I'm a variety streamer. I'm someone who is currently reading books on Tuesdays, and I will continue reading this book on Tuesday as I finish this chapter. What are you streaming? Let me do this.
2 is now following.
Let me do this. What have you been streaming? Stardew Valley.
I didn't see anything. I didn't fuck up at all. There is 0 proof. Nuh-uh. I am a perfect gamer.
Do follow Blair, wonderful Blair, and welcome everyone. And thank you for the follow, NanoCloud. Thank you for the follow, Anthony. Welcome. Today is a bit of a calm day, ASMR day. I like to read books as I'm doing ASMR. We will be continuing in a moment, but I wanted to say hello to everyone, and I want you to enjoy a calm drink, something to relax maybe after the stream. Please feel free to lurk at your own leisure, and if you want to talk to me directly, go ahead and say ! Say to use the TTS engine I have installed. It was supposed to be Crab Champions, but it ended up to being too laggy for me. Was it too hard to play this game? Was it too demanding in terms of game graphics? I don't really know Crab Champions, but is it a new game of some sort? Let's see. Let me see.
Oh well, good night for real now lol. Have a good night. The Obs 13 heart. The Obs 13 heart. Mary Inkheart. Mary Inkheart. Mary Inkheart.
Have a good night, Uni Bun Bun, and I'm glad you decided to stop by. It is a simple roguelike where you're a crab. Oh, I see. That is an interesting concept. Is it any fun? Have you heard? Is it any fun? But from judging from the looks of it, it is rather characteristic. Oh, 4.5 hours. That's a long run. So I assume there's lots of content, right? Interesting. I will look into it after this one. Hope you will enjoy. But yeah, if you want to chat with me, use this.
Stinky.
See? It's I have the TTS now, and what you see to the left of me right now on the screen is the chat's TTS avatar. This is what you are in my brain. She's called Mooney, and she has a nice voice, I would say. So go ahead and use it once I'm actually reading. And mostly wants the achievement, to be honest. As understandable, understandable. You're a bit of an achievement hunter, I take it then? You're a bit of an achievement hunter. I can respect that. I can most definitely respect that. I tend to enjoy having those kind. I don't usually try too hard, but I like getting what I can when I get it. Yeah. I feel like achievements had become quite an interesting system because it rewards you without rewarding you too much, and not even in game. It's more of like a fun little blink. Oh, you did this fun thing. You finally succeeded doing this. Congratulations. And I'm like, yay, thank you. Simple dopamine thing. Exactly. I enjoy that myself. Hope you enjoyed the music this time. Because this will be the music I will be using for the ASMR segments, because it's soft jazz. Do you like jazz? Absolutely. You like jazz? Thank you for the lurk, Anthony. But yes, I'm going to be continuing reading in but a moment. This is the for all those who are unaware, I'm currently reading Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. This is the middle of the second chapter, if I'm not mistaken. So please sit down, enjoy yourself. You can listen to me in the background, or you can just lurk in silence and don't even listen to me, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Yes, Dostoevsky. I'm reading Dostoevsky. It's one of my favorite authors. I am Russian myself, so I have been acquainted with his works quite early on because they are included in our education, obviously, literature education, so it's included. I have never read it. I am Russian, indeed, yes. I have never read it in English before, so this is an experience for me because most of the time I read the original text of the novel. Now I am getting quite close and personal, so to speak, with the English translation, which does convey a lot of his wordy excellence very well. I feel like it will add to my word count on English because I feel like I will start talking much better once I finish this book. There's a certain level of eloquence to his word that is translating very well, even in the right written form, outside of the vocabulary. Exactly. Thank you. My vocab shall be expanded once I finish this book considerably, because I feel like I have been talking quite simply the last few months, understandably speaking, considering the fact that I am I'm a streamer. I try to be entertaining more above everything else, and entertainment often comes in simple forms. But once a while, I would prefer to showcase my eloquence, so to speak. So let's continue. I was here. At 6 o'clock, I saw Sonia get up, put her on her kerchief and her cape, and go out of the room, and about 9 o'clock, she came back. She walked straight to the Katerina Ivanovna, and she laid 30 rubles on the table before her in silence. She did not utter a word. She did not even look at her. She simply picked up on her big green drap-de-dames shawl, which have a shawl made of a drap-de-dames, put it in over her head and face, and lay down on the bed with her face to the wall. Only her little shoulders and her body kept shuddering, and I went on laying there just as before. And then I saw a young man. I saw Katerina Ivanovna in the same silence go up to Sonia's little bed. She was on her knees all the evening, kissing Sonia's feet, and would not get up. And then they both fell asleep in each other's arms. Together, yes, I lay drunk. Marmeladov stopped short, as though his voice had failed him. Then he hurriedly filled his glass, drank, and cleared his throat. Since then, sir, he went on after a brief pause. Since then, owing to the unfortunate occurrence and through information given by evil-intentioned persons, in all which Daria Frantsovna took a leading part, on the pretext that she has been treated with want of respect. Since then, my daughter Sofia Semyonovna has been forced to take a yellow ticket, and owing to that, she is unable to go on living with us. Thank you for the follow, and we Envy Love Meow, Lover Meow, Envy Lover Meow.
Following.
Welcome to the stream. I am the Observer. I'm a variety streamer. Call me Theodore. Or Theo for short. I'm a variety streamer. I stream games. I read books. I hopefully entertain. Today is the reading books part, and today I am hoping to entertain like that. Feel free to enjoy yourself, relax, grab a drink, grab something else, and lean back. For I'm going to be reading one or two more chapters, depending on how it goes. I'm not sure how much of the chapter is left, but I am reading Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment right now, chapter 2. For our landlady, Amalia Fyodorovna, would not hear of it, though she had backed up Daria Frantsovna before, and Mr. Lebesnikov, too. All the trouble between him and Katerina Ivanovna was on Sonia's account. At first, he was for making up to Sonia himself, and then all of a sudden he stood on his dignity. How, said he, can a highly educated man like me live in the same rooms with a girl like that? And Katerina Ivanovna would not let it pass. She stood up for her, and so that's how it happened. And Sonia comes to us now, mostly after dark. She comforts Ekaterina Ivanovna and gives her all she can. She has a room at the Kapernaumovs, the tailors. She lodges with them. Kapernaumov is a lame man with a cleft palate, and all of his numerous family have cleft palate too, and his wife too has a cleft palate. Palette. They all live in one room, but Sonia has her own, partitioned off. Yes. Very poor people and all with cleft palates, yes. Then I got up in the morning and put on my rags, lifted up my hands to heaven, and said off to His Excellency Ivan Afanasievich. His Excellency Ivan Afanasievich, do you know him? No? Well then, it's a man of God you don't know. He is wax before the face of the Lord, even as wax melteth. His eyes were dim when he heard my story. Marmeladov once already have deceived my expectations. I'll take you once more on my own responsibility. That's what he said, I remember. He said, and now you can go. I kissed the dust at his feet. In thought only, for in reality he would not have allowed me to do it. Being the statesman and a man of the modern political and enlightenment ideas, I returned home, and when I announced that I had been taken back into the service and should receive a salary, heavens, what a to-do there was! Marmeladov stopped again in violent excitement. At that moment, the whole party of revelers, already drunk, came in front the street at the sounds of a hired concertina, and the cracked pipe in the voice of a child of 7 singing, the Hamlet, were heard in the entry. The room was filled with noise. The tavern keeper and the boys were busy with the newcomers. Marmeladov, paying no attention to the new arrivals, continued his story. He appeared by now to be extremely weak, but as he became more and more drunk, he became more and more talkative. The recollection of his recent success in getting the situation seems to revive him, and was positively reflected in sort of radiance on his face. Raskolnikov listened attentively. Oh, okay. Arara. Okay, sure. Let me do an arara real quick. Arara. 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 Triple ara. Apologies. I thought I'd try different aras in the process. Welcome. It'd be kind of interesting if people actually decided to drop by whenever I said this. Okay, that's wonderful. Then that was 5 weeks ago, sir. Yes. As soon as Katerina Ivanovna and Sonia heard of it, mercy on us, it was I thought I stepped into a kingdom of heaven. It used to be, you can lie like a beast, nothing but abuse. Now they were walking on tiptoe, hushing the children. Semyon Zaharovich is tired with his work in the office. He is resting. Shh! They made me coffee before I went to work and boiled cream for me. They began to game the real cream for me. Do you hear that? And how they managed to get together the money for a decent outfit. 11 rubles, 50 kopecks, I can't guess. Boots, cotton shirt fronts, most magnificent a uniform. They got up all in splendid style for 11 rubles and a half. The first morning I came back from the office and found Katerina Ivanovna had cooked 2 courses for dinner, soup and salt meat with horseradish, which we had never dreamed of till then. She had not any dresses, not at all, but she got herself up as though she were going on a visit. And not that she'd anything to do with it. She smartened herself up with nothing at all. She'd done her hair nicely, put on a clean collar of some sort, cuffs, and there she was, quite a different person. She was younger and better looking. Sonia, my little darling, had only helped with money. For a time, she said. It won't do for me to come and see you all too often. After dark, maybe, when no one can see. Do you hear? I lay down for a nap after dinner, and what do you think? Though Katerina Ivanovna had quarreled to the last degree with our landlady Amalia Fyodorovna only a week before, she could not resist then asking her into coffee. For 2 hours they were sitting whispering together. Semyon Zaharovich is in the service again now and receiving salary, says she, and he went himself to His Excellency, and His Excellency himself came out to him, made all others wait, and led Semyon Zaharovich by the hand before everyone into his study. Do you hear? To be sure, says he. Semyon Zaharovich, remembering your past services, says he, and in spite of your prosperity to that foolish weakness, since you promised now, and since, moreover, we've got on badly without you. Do you hear? And so, says he, I rely on you, on your word as a gentleman, and all that led me to tell you. She has simply made up for herself, and not simply out of wantonness, for the sake of bragging. No, she believes it all herself. She amuses herself with her own fancies. Upon my word, she does, and I don't blame her for it. No, I don't blame her. 6 days ago, when I brought her my first earnings in full, 23 rubles, 40 kopecks altogether, she called me her puppet. Puppets, she said, my little puppet. And when we were by ourselves, do you understand? You would not think me a beauty, you would not think much of me as a husband, would you? Well, she pinched my cheek, my little puppet, she said. Oh, welcome. Welcome, Sicily Goose. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. Feel free to follow me if you'd like. I'm going to be... there's going to be more of that. Gonna fall asleep such a nice stream. I'm glad you think so, honestly. Second Soul. That's a familiar name. Welcome. I think this is an artist. I think this is an artist that had made the starting screen of mine. Welcome. You know what I should do? I should do something here. Community. Roles. Role manager. I must. Here you go. You are now an artist. I figured I could give you badge, so feel free to type in. I hope you will have the artist badge shown. Yes. Do you see the? I need to make sure. Do you see the artist badge? I must find if I found the correct account. Wonderful. Well, then listen. You are free to listen further. I'm gonna continue reading in the same relaxing manner. Marmeladov broke off, tried to smile, but suddenly his chin began to twitch. He controlled himself, however. The tavern, the disgraced appearance of the man, the 5 nights in the hay barge, and the pot of spirits, and yet this poignant love for his wife and children bewildered his listener. Raskolnikov listened intently, but with a sick sensation. He felt vexed that he had come here. Honored sir, cried Marmeladov, recovering himself. Oh, sir, perhaps all it seems like laughing matter to you, as it does to others, and perhaps I am only worrying you with the stupidity of the trivial details of my home life. But it is not a laughing matter to me, for I can feel it all. And the whole of that heavenly day of my life, and the whole of that evening I passed in fleeting dreams of how I would arrange it all, and how I would dress all the children, and how I should give her rest, and now I should rescue my own daughter from dishonor and restore her to the bosom of her family. A great deal more. Quite excusable, sir. Wendell, sir. Marmeladov suddenly gave a sort of start, raised his head, and gazed intently at the listener. Well, on the very next day after all those dreams, that is to say exactly 5 days ago in the evening, by a cunning trick, like a thief in the night, I stole from Katerina Ivanovna the key to her box, took out what was left of my earnings, how much it was I have forgotten, and now look at me, all of you. It's the 5th day since I left home, and they are looking for me there, and it's the end of my employment, and my uniform is laying in a tavern on an Egyptian bridge. I exchanged it for the garments I have on, and it's the end of everything. Marmeladov struck his forehead with his fist, clenched his teeth, closed his eyes, and leaned heavily with his elbow on the table. But after a minute, his face suddenly changed. With a sudden assumed slyness and affectation of bravado, he glanced at Raskolnikov, laughed, and said, "This morning I went to see Sonia. I went to ask her for pick-me-up." "You don't say she gave it to you?" cried one of the newcomers. He shouted the words and went off into guffaw. "The very quart was brought with her money," Marmeladov declared, addressing himself exclusively to Raskolnikov. 30 kopechks she gave me with her own hands, her last, all I saw. She said nothing, she only looked at me without a word. Not on earth, but on yonder. They grieve over men, they weep, but they don't blame them. They don't blame them, but it hurts more. It hurts more when they don't blame. 30 kopechks, yes. And maybe she needs them now, eh? What do you think, my dear sir? For now she's got to keep up her appearance. It costs money, that smartness, that special smartness, you know. Do you understand? And there's pomatum, too. You see, she must have things, petticoats, starched ones, shoes too, real jaunty ones, to show off her foot when she has to step over a puddle. Do you understand, sir? Do you understand what all that smartness means? And here I own her own father here. I took 30 kopechks of that money for a drink, and I'm drinking it, and I've already drunk it. Come, who will have pity on a man like me, eh? Are you sorry for me, sir, or not? Tell me, sir, are you sorry or not? You would have filled his glass, but there was no drink left. No pot was empty. What are you to be pitied for? Shouted tavern keeper, who was again near them. Shouts of laughter and even oaths followed. The laughter and the oaths came from those who were listening, and also from those who had heard nothing but were simply looking at the figure of the discharged government clerk. To be pitied? Why am I to be pitied? Marmeladov suddenly declared, standing up with his arm outstretched as though he had been only waiting for that question. Why am I to be pitied, you say? Yes, there is nothing to be pitied me for. I ought to be crucified on a cross, not pitied. Crucify me, O judge, crucify me, but pity me. And then I will go of myself to be crucified, for it's not merrymaking I seek, but tears and tribulation. Do you suppose, all you that sell, that this pint of yours has been sweet to me? It was tribulation, I saw it at the bottom of it, tears and tribulation, and I have found it, and I have tasted it. But he will pity us. Who has pity of all, who has had pity of all men? Who has understood all men in all things? He is the one. He too is the judge. He will come in that day, and he will ask, where is the daughter who gave herself for her cross, consumptive stepmother, and for the little children of another? Where is the daughter who had pity upon the filthy drunkard, her earthly father, undismayed by his beastliness? And he will say, come to me. I have already forgiven thee once. I have forgiven thee once. Thy sins, which are many, are forgiven thee, for thou hast loved much. And he will forgive me, my Sonia. He will forgive. I know it. I felt it in my heart when I was with her just now. And he will judge and will forgive all, and good and the evil, the wise and the meek. And when he has done with all of them, then he will summon us. You too come forth, he will say. Come forth, you drunkards, come forth, you weak ones, come forth, you children of shame. And we shall all come forth without shame, and shall stand before him, and he will say unto us, Ye are swine, made in the image of the beast, and with his mark. But come ye also, and the wise ones, and those of understanding will say, O Lord, why dost receive those men? And he will say, This is why I receive them, O ye wise, that is why I receive them, O ye of understanding, that not one of them believed himself to be worthy of this. And he will hold out his hands to us, and we shall fall down before him, and we shall weep, and we shall understand all things, and we shall understand all, and all will understand, Katerina Ivanovna, even she will understand. Lord, thy kingdom come. And he sank down on the bench, exhausted and helpless, looking at no one, apparently oblivious to his surroundings, and plunged in deep thoughts. His word had created a certain impression. There was a moment of silence, but soon laughter and oaths were heard again. That's his notion. Talked himself silly. A fine clerk he is, and so on and so on. Let us go, sir, said Marmeladov all at once, raising his head and addressing Raskolnikov. Come along with me. Kozel's house, looking into a yard. I'm going to Katerina Ivanovna. Time I did. Raskolnikov for some time been waiting to go, and he had meant to help him. Marmeladov was much unsteady on his legs and his speech, and leaned heavily on the young man. They had 200 or 300 paces to go. The drunken man was more and more overcome by dismay and confusion as they drew nearer the house. Yeah, exactly. Feels cute, man. Feels strong, man. Rain time, exactly. So the book utilizes quite strong language, I'd say, which I respect a lot. Actually, there's a lot of things about this I respect. It is not Katerina Ivanovna I'm afraid of now, he muttered in agitation, and that she will begin pulling my hair. What does my hair matter? Bother my hair. That's what I say. Indeed, it would be better if she does begin pulling it. That's what I'm afraid of. It's her eyes I'm afraid of. Oh yes, her eyes. The red of her cheeks too frightens me, and her breathing too. Have you noticed how people in that disease breathe when they are excited? I'm frightened of the children crying too. For if Sonia has not taken them food, I don't know what's happened. I don't know. But blows I'm not afraid of. No, sir, such blows are not a pain to me, but even an enjoyment. In fact, I can't get on without it. It's better so. Let her strike me, relieves her heart. It's better so. There's the house of Kozel, the cabinet maker, a German, well-to-do. Lead the way. They went in from the yard and up at the first story. The staircase got darker and darker as they went up. It was nearly 11 o'clock, and although in summer in Petersburg there is no real nights, yet it was quite dark at the top of the stairs. A grimy little door at the very top of the stairs stood ajar. A very poor-looking room, about 10 paces long, was lighted up by a candle end. The whole of it was visible from the entrance. It was all in disorder, littered up with rags of all sorts, especially children's garments. Across the furthest corners was stretched a ragged sheet. Behind it was probably the bed. There was nothing in the room except 2 chairs and a sofa covered with American leather, full of holes, before which stood an old deal kitchen table, unpainted and uncovered. At the edge of the table stood a smoldering tallow candle in an iron candlestick. It appeared that the family had room to themselves, not a part of the room. But the room was practically a passage. The door leading to the other rooms, or rather cupboards, into which Amalia Represhevich's flat was divided, stood up half open, and there was shouting, uproar, and laughter within. People seemed to be playing cards and drinking tea there. Words of the most unceremonious kinds flew out from time to time. Raskolnikov recognized Katerina Ivanovna at once. She was a rather tall, slim, and graceful woman, terribly emaciated, with magnificent dark brown hair and with hectic flush in her cheeks. She was pacing up and down in her little room, pressing her hands against her chest. Her lips was parched, and her breathing came in nervous, broken gasps. Her eyes glittered in fever and looked about in a harsh, immovable stare. And that consumptive and excited face with the last flickering light of the candle playing upon it made a sickening impression. She seemed to Raskolnikov about 30 years old and was certainly a strange wife for Marmeladov. She had not heard them and did not notice them coming in. She seemed to be lost in thought, hearing and seeing nothing. The room was closed. But she had not opened the window. A stench rose from the staircase, but the door on the stairs was not closed. From the inner room's cloud of tobacco smoke floated in. She kept coughing, but did not close the door. The youngest child, a girl of 6, was asleep, sitting curled up on the floor with her head on the sofa. A boy, a year older, stood crying and shaking in the corner. Probably he had just had a beating. Beside him stood a girl of 9-year-old, tall and thin, wearing a thin and ragged chemise with an ancient cashmere pelisse flung over her bare shoulders, long outgrown and barely reaching her knees. Her arm, as thin as a stick, was rounded up her brother's neck. She was trying to comfort him, whispering something to him, and doing all she could to keep him from whimpering again. At the same time, her large dark eyes, which looked larger still from the thinness of her frightened face, were watching her mother with alarm. Marmeladov did not enter the door, but dropped on his knees in the very doorway, pushing Raskolnikov in front of him. The woman, seeing a stranger, stopped indefinitely facing him, coming to herself for a moment, and apparently wondering what he had come here for. But evidently she decided she was going in the next room, and he had to pass through hers to get there. Taking no further notice of him, she walked towards the outer door to close it, and uttered a sudden scream of seeing her husband on his knees. "Ah!" she cried out in a frenzy. "He has come back! The criminal! The monster! And where is the money? What's in your pocket? Show me! And your clothes are all different! Where are your clothes? Where is the money? Speak!" And she fell to searching him. Marmeladov submissively, obediently held up both his arms and to facilitate the search. Not a farthing was there. "Where is the money?" she cried. "Money! Mercy on us! Can he have drunk it all?" There was 12 silver rubles left in the chest. In a fury, she seized him in the hair and dragged him into the room. Marmeladov seconded her efforts by meekly crawling along on his knees. "This is a consolation to me. This does not hurt me. This is a positive consolation, honored sir," he called out, shaken to a throb by his hair, and once striking the ground with his forehead. The child asleep on the floor woke up and began to cry. The boy in the corner, losing all control, began trembling and screaming and rushed to his sister in violent terror, almost in a fit. The eldest girl was shaking like a leaf. He's drunk it all!" the poor woman screamed in despair. "And his clothes are gone, and they are hungry! And wringing her hands, she pointed at the children. "Oh, accursed life, and you are not ashamed?" She pounced all at once upon Raskolnikov. "From the tavern! I have been drinking with him. Have you been drinking with him too? Go away!" The young man was hastening away without uttering a word. The inner door was thrown wide open, and inquisitive faces were peering in at it. Coarse, laughing faces with pipes and cigarettes and heads wearing caps thrust themselves in the doorway. Further in, could be seen figures in dressing gowns flung open, in costumes of unseemly scantiness, some of them with cards in their hands. They were particularly diverted when Marmeladov, dragged about by his hair, shouted that it was a consolation to him. They even began to come into the room. At last, a sinister shrill cry was heard. This came from Amalia Represevich herself, pushing her way amongst them and trying to restore order after her own fashion, and for the 100th time to frighten the poor woman by ordering her to coerce a bab used to clear out of the room the next day. And he went out. As he went out, Raskolnikov had time to put his hand into his pocket to snatch up the coppers he had received in exchange for his trouble in the tavern, and lay them in unnoticed on the window. Afterwards, on the stairs, he changed his mind and would have gone back. "What a stupid thing I've done," he thought to himself. "They have Sonia, and I wanted myself." But reflecting that it would be impossible to take it back now, and that in any case he would not have taken it, he dismissed it with a wave of his hand and went back to his lodging. Sonia wants pomatum too," he said as he walked along the street, and he laughed malignantly. "Such smartness costs money. Maybe Sonia herself will be bankrupt today, for there is always a risk, hunting big game, digging for gold. Then they would all be without a crust tomorrow, except for my money. Hurrah for Sonia. What a mine they've dug. And they're making a most of it. Yes, they're making most of it. They've wept over it and grown used to it. Man grows used to everything, the scoundrel." He sank into thought. "And what if I am wrong?" he cried suddenly after a moment's thought. "What if man is not really a scoundrel? Man in general, I mean, the whole race of mankind. then all of the rest, all the rest is prejudice, simply artificial terrors. There are no barriers, and it's all as it should be. Oh, interesting. It's definitely a language. You know what? Let's read one more chapter, and then we're gonna be done for today. It's definitely a wording. Like it's incredibly interesting how it's worded. It's a rather striking novel, after all, Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. I'm not surprised that even in English it is very strongly and interestingly worded. I quite enjoy that sort of language myself. But yeah, I hope you're enjoying the stream so far, and we're gonna read third chapter and the final chapter for now. 3 chapters is a good number. I think 3 chapters is a good number to start with. I'm gonna be posting the readings themselves on YouTube, hopefully. And you will not, please, please not. No matter how much I wish to escape the timing, I could not escape the timing. Unfortunately. 'Tis unfortunate. Not. Yes, not. Welcome, Uncle. Pleasure to see you here. Today I'm quiet. Observer. What? You have a PC finally. Nice. Is it a good PC then, dear uncle? I know. I know you would say that. I would say the same. I respect it. Is it a good PC then? Do tell me it's a good PC. I hope it's a good PC because one does not appreciate the quality of a good PC until they finally get a good PC after having none. The graphic card glows several colors, so I believe so. I would think so. My graphic cards. But now you can make content. Record videos, do stuff like that. You probably can if you want to. Be converted. Be converted to the content making. Oh, your PC is garbage, by the way. Oh, yeah, that's unfortunate. Is it one? Is it weird? It's funny because my artist mama also has a quite a struggling computer herself. So I'm sure this problem is quite relatable to you. But sometimes the the drawing program decides to freeze because of how much stuff it is in there, how much layers, how much stuff. And it's like, okay, I need to wait like a few moments until it unfreezes so I can continue doing whatever I was doing before. Seems like it is a common problem with artists who have not adequate PCs. It's 8 hours downloaded Destiny. That's quite strong. To be fair though, I think Steam has my friend might do a test stream on Sunday. Oh, test stream on Sunday. Okay, we'll look out for the friend. I am indeed free on Sunday. I do not have anything on Sunday. I am not free. Yeah, I'm not busy on Sunday. The only thing I have on Sunday is like at the start of Sunday with like which is mostly Saturday for you. It's the hot takes with Silings that is going to be the start of the Sunday, which is like 2 a.m. for me. You know, I always found it funny that you guys have summer savings and the likes, while me, I don't have it. So anytime before the savings, before the time savings, it was 3 a.m. where I needed to go to Silence's hot takes, but now it's 2 a.m. where I need to go to Silence's hot takes because your time changed, but mine didn't. It's interesting, I'd say. It's pretty interesting. I'm actually surprised you decided to drop by the way, Second Cell. I don't think I have seen you since the time you had followed me a while back. Yeah, in November, if I'm not mistaken. Exactly, in November. Oh, yeah, wow, you even no, right. You did not subscribe. You were gifted a subscription. Speaking of that, I might be planning a subathon soon because I had discovered a loophole that would allow me to actually receive the money from the Twitch. So that is something I'm going to be doing in the moment. I'm going to be doing a subathon to celebrate something I am not at will to announce yet. I'm not I cannot announce quite yet, but I will be doing a subathon when that time comes. It's a good excuse to do it as any. Hopefully, you're just a quiet one. Understandable. Well, I hope you're enjoying yourself, because I'm certainly enjoying myself. All right. Well, all of the announcements out of the way, that there will be subathon, that there will be an announcement I cannot yet announce, and that I am going to be continuing strongly, hopefully without getting delayed this time around. Chapter 3, Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment, Chapter 3. He waked up late next day after a broken sleep, but his sleep had not refreshed him. He walked up billows, irritable, ill-tempered, and looked with hatred at his room. It was a tiny cupboard of a room, about 6 paces in length. It has a poverty-stricken appearance, with its dusty yellow paper peeling off the walls, and it was so low-pitched that the man of more than average height was ill at ease at it, and felt every moment that he would knock his head against the ceiling. The furniture was in keeping with the room. There were 3 old chairs that are rather rickety, a painted table in the corner, on which lay a few manuscripts and books. The dust that lay thick upon them showed that they had been long untouched. A big clumsy sofa occupied almost the whole of the one wall and half the floor space of the room. It was once covered with chintz, but was now in rags and served Raskolnikov as a bed. Often he went to sleep on it, as he was, without undressing, without sheets, wrapped in his old student's overcoat, with his head on one little pillow, under which he heaped up all of the linen he had, clean and dirty, by way of bolster. A little table stood in front of the sofa. It would have been difficult to sink to a lower ebb of disorder, but to Raskolnikov, in his present state of mind, this was positively agreeable. He had got completely away from everyone, like a tortoise in its shell, and even the sight of a servant girl who had to wait upon him and looked sometimes into his room made him writhe with nervous irritation. He was in the condition that overtakes some monomaniacs, entirety concentrated upon one thing. His landlady had for the last fortnight given up sending him in meals, and he had not yet thought of expostulating her with her, though he went without his dinner. Nastya, the cook and the only servant, was rather pleased at the lodger's mood, and had entirely given up sweeping and doing his room. Only once a week or so she would stray his room with a broom. She walked up to him and said, "Get up while you're asleep," she called to him. "It's past 9. I have brought you some tea. Will you have a cup? I should think you're fairly starving." Raskolnikov opened his eyes, started, and reconsidered, and recognized Nastya. "From the landlady?" he asked slowly and with a sickly face, sitting up on the sofa. "From the landlady, indeed." She set before him her own cracked teapot full of weak and stale tea, and laid 2 yellow lumps of sugar by the side of it. Here, Nastya, take it, please, he said, fumbling in his pocket, for he had slept in his clothes, and taken out a handful of coppers. Run and buy me a loaf, and give me a little sausage, the cheapest at the pork's butcher. The loaf will fetch you this very minute, but wouldn't you rather have some cabbage soup instead of sausage? It's the capital soup yesterday's. I saved it for you yesterday, but you came in late. It's fine soup. When the soup has been brought, and he had begun upon it, Nastya sat down beside him on a sofa and began chatting. She was a country peasant woman, and a very talkative one. Prostakova Pilonia means to complain to the police about you. He said she's called to the police. What does she want? You don't pay her money, and you won't turn out for the room. That's what she wants, to be sure. The devil, that's the last straw, he muttered, grinning his teeth. No, that would not suit me, just now. She is a fool. I'll go talk to her today. Fool she is, and no mistake, just as I am. But why, if you are so clever, do you lie here like a sack and have nothing to show for it? One time you used you to go out, you say, to teach children, but why is it you do nothing? I am doing... Raskolnikov began solemnly and reluctantly. What are you doing? Work. What sort of work? I'm thinking, he answered seriously after a pause. Nastya was overcome with laughter. With a fit of laughter. She was given to laughter, and when anything amused her, she laughed inaudibly, quivering and shaking all over till she fell ill. And have you made money by your thinking? She managed to articulate at last. One can go out to give lessons without boots, and I'm sick of it. Don't quarrel with your bread and butter. They pay so little for lessons. What's the use of a few coppers? He answers reluctantly as though replying to his own thought. And you want to get fortune all at once? He looked at her strangely. Yes, I want a fortune. He answered firmly after a brief pause. Don't be in such a hurry. You quite frighten me. Shall I get you the loaf or not? As you please. Ah, I forgot. A letter came for you yesterday when you were out. A letter? For me? From whom? I can't say. I have 3 cup checks of my own to the postman for it. Will you pay me back? Then bring it to me, for God's sake. Bring it, cried Raskolnikov, greatly excited. Good God! A minute later, the letter was brought to him. That was it, from his mother, from the Providence of R. He turned pale when he took it. It was a long while since he had received the letter, but another feeling is also suddenly stabbed his heart. Nastya, leave me alone, for goodness sakes. Here are your 3 cop checks, for goodness sakes. Make me hasten. Go! The letter was quivering in his hand. He did not want to open it in her presence. He wanted to be left alone with this letter. When Nastya had gone out, he lifted it quickly to his lips and kissed it. Then he gazed intently at the address, the small, sloping handwriting, so dear and familiar, of the mother who had once taught him to read and write. He delayed. He seemed almost afraid of something. At last he opened it. It was a thick, heavy letter, weighing over 2 ounces. 2 large sheets of notepaper were covered with very small handwriting. My dear Rodya, wrote his mother, it's 2 months since I last had a talk with you by letter, which has distressed me and even kept me awake that night, thinking, but I'm sure you will not blame me for my inevitable silence. You know how I love you. You are all we have to look for to Donna and I. You are our all, our one hope, our one stay. What a grief it was to me when I heard that you had given up the university some months ago, for want of means to keep yourself, and that you had lost your lessons and your other work. How could I help you out of my 120 rubles a year pension? The 15 rubles I sent you 4 months ago I borrowed, as you know, on security on my pension from Vasily Ivanovich Vakhrushin, a merchant of his town. He's a kind-hearted man and was a friend of your father's too, but having given him the right to receive the pension, I had to wait till the debt was paid off, and that was only just done, so that I've been unable to send you anything all this time. But now, thank God, I believe I shall be able to sell you something more, and in fact we may congratulate ourselves on our good fortune now, of which I hastened to inform you. In the first place, would you have guessed, dear Rodya, that your sister has been living with me for the last 6 weeks, and we shall not be separated in the future. Thank God, her sufferings are over, but I will tell you everything in order, so that you may know just how everything has happened, and all that we have hitherto concealed from you. When you wrote me 2 months ago that you had heard that Donna had a great deal to put up with in this figure, Svidrigalov's house when you wrote that and asked me to tell you all about it. What I could write in answer to you. If I had written the whole truth to you, I dare say you would have thrown up everything and have to come to us, even if you had to walk all the way, for I know your character, your feelings, and you would not let your sister be insulted. I was in despair myself, but what could I do? And besides, I did not know the whole truth myself then. What made it so difficult was that Donna received 100 rubles in advance when she took the place as governess in their family, in condition of part of her salary being deducted every month. And so it was impossible to throw up the situation without repaying the debt. This sum, now I can explain it all to you, my precious Rodia, she took chiefly in order to send you 60 rubles, which you needed by Terra so terribly then, and which you received from us this last year. We deceived you then, writing that this money came from Doma's savings. Doma's nut? Doma's nut. Why are we speaking about her nut? Why is... Okay. God fucking damn it. We received from Doma's nut. God fucking damn it, okay. We deceived... We deceived you then, writing that this money came from Donia's savings. But that was not so, and now I tell you all about it, because I thank God things have suddenly changed for the better, and that you may know how Donia loves you, and what heart she has. At first, indeed, Mr. Svigalov treated her very rudely and used to make disrespectful and jeering remarks at table, but I don't want to go into those painful details, so as not to worry you for nothing when it is now all over. In short, in spite of the kind and generous behavior our Marfa Petrovna, Mr. Svirgalov's wife, all the rest of the household, Donia, all the rest of this household, Donia had a very hard time, especially when Mr. Svigalov, relapsing into his old regimental habits, was under the influence of Bacchus. And now, how do you think it was explained later on? All explained later on? Would you believe that the crazy fellow had conceived a passion for Donia from the beginning, but had concealed it under a show of rudeness and contempt? Possibly he was ashamed and horrified himself at his own flighty hopes, considering his years and his being the father of a family, and that make him angry with Donia, and possibly too he hoped by his rude and sneering behavior to hide the truth from others. But at last he had lost all control and had the face to make Donia an open and shameful proposal, promising her all sorts of inducements and offering besides to throw up everything and take her to another estate of his or even abroad. You can imagine all she went through. To leave her situation at once was impossible, not only on account of the money debt, but also to spare the feelings of Marfa Petrovna, whose suspicions would have been aroused. And then Donia would have been the case of a rupture in the family, and it would have meant a terrible scandal for Donia too, that would have been inevitable. There were various other reasons owing to which Donia could not hope to escape from that awful house for another 6 weeks. You know Donia, of course. You know how clever she is, and what strong will she has. Donia can endure a great deal, and even in the most difficult cases she has the fortitude to maintain her firmness. She does not even write to me about everything for fear of upsetting me, although we were constantly in communication. It all ended up very unexpectedly. Marfa Petrovna accidentally overheard her husband imploring Donia in the garden and putting a quite wrong interpretation on the position, threw the blame upon her, believing her to be the cause of it all. An awful scene took place between them on the spot in the garden. Marfa Petrovna went as far to strike Donia, refused to hear anything, and was shouting at her for a whole hour, and then gave orders that Donia should be packed off at once to me in a plain peasant car, into which they flung all her things, and her linen and her clothes, all pell-mell, without folding it up and packing it. And a heavy shower of rain came on, too, and Donia, insulted and put to shame, had to drive with the peasant in an open cart, all the 17 versts into town. Only think what answer could I have spent to the lad. only think now, what answer could I have sent to the letter I received from you 2 months ago, and what could I have written? I was in despair. I dared not write to you in truth because you would have been very unhappy, mortified, and indignant. And yet, what could you do? You could only perhaps ruin yourself, and besides, Donia would not allow it. And fill up my letter with trifles, when my heart was so full of sorrow I could not. For a whole month the town was full of gossip about this scandal, and it came to such a pass that Donia and I dared not to go to church on account of contemptuous looks, whispers, and even remarks made aloud about us. All of our acquaintances avoided us, nobody even bowed to us in the street, and I learned that some shopmen and clerks were intending to insult us in shameful wear, smearing the gates of our house with pitch, so that the landlord began to tell us we must leave. All this was set going by Marfa Petrovna, who managed to slander Donia and throw dirt in her in every family. She knows everyone in the neighborhood. In that month, she was continually coming into town, and she's rather talkative and fond of gossiping about her family affairs, and particularly of complaining to all and each of her husband, which is not at all right. So in short time, she had spread her story not only in town, but over the whole surrounding district. It made me ill, but Donia bore it better than I did. If only you could have seen how she endured it all, and tried to comfort me and cheer me up. She's an angel. But by God's mercy, our sufferings were cut short. Mr. Svigadrov returned his senses and repented, and probably feeling sorry for Donia, he laid before Marfa Petrovna complete and unmistakable proof of Doma's innocence, in form of a letter Donia had been forced to write and give to him before Marfa Petrovna came upon him in the garden. This letter, which remained in Mr. Svigadrov's hands after her departure, she had written to refuse personal explanations and secret interviews for which he was entertaining and treating her. In that letter, she reproached him with great heat and indignation for the baseness of his behavior in regard to Marfa Petrovna, reminding him that he was the father and head of a family, and telling me how infamous it was of him to torment and make unhappy a defenseless girl, unhappy enough already. Indeed, dear Rodia, the letter was so nobly and touchingly written that I sobbed when I read it, and to this day I cannot read it without tears. Moreover, the evidence of the servants too cleared Donia's reputation. They had seen and known a great deal more than Mr. Svigadrov had himself supposed, as indeed it always the case with the servants. Marfa Petrovna was completely taken aback and again crushed, as she said herself to us, but she was completely convinced of Donia's innocence. The very next day, being Sunday, she went straight to the cathedral, knelt down and prayed with tears to Our Lady to give her strength to bear this new trial and to do her duty. Then she came straight from cathedral to us, told us the whole story, wept bitterly and fully penitent. She embraced Donia and besought her to forgive her. The same morning, without any delay, she went round to all the houses down and everywhere, shedding tears. She asserted in the most flattering terms Donia's innocence and nobility of her feelings and her behavior. What was more, she showed and read to everyone the letter in Donia's own handwriting to Mr. Svidrigailov, yes, and even allowed them to take copies of it, which I must say I think was superfluous. In this way, she was busy for several days in driving about the whole town, because some people had taken offense through precedence having been given to others, and therefore they had to take turns, so that in every house she was expected before she arrived, and everyone knew that on such and such a day Marfa Petrovna would be reading the letter in such and such a place, and people assembled for every reading of it, even many who had heard it several times already, both in their own houses and other people's. In my opinion, a great deal of it all of this was unnecessary, but that's Marfa Petrovna's character. Anyway, she succeeded in completely re-establishing Donia's reputation, and the whole ignominy of this affair rested as the inevitable disgrace upon her husband, as the only person to blame, so that I really began to feel sorry for him. It was really treating the crazy fellow too harshly. Donia was at once asked to give lessons in several families, but she refused. All of a sudden, everyone began to treat her with marked respect, and all this did too much to bring about the event by which one may say our whole fortunes are now transformed. You must know, dear Rodia, that Donia has a suitor, and that she has already consented to marry him. I hasten to tell you all about the matter, and though it has been arranged without asking your consent, I think you will not be aggravated with me or with your sister on that account, for you will see that we could not wait and put off our decision till we heard from you. And you could not have judged all the facts without being on the spot. This was how it happened. He is already of the rank of the consular, Pyotr Petrovich Luzhin, and is distantly related to Marfa Petrovna, who has been active in bringing the match about. It began with his expressing through her his desire to make her acquaintance. He was properly received, drank coffee with us, and the very next day he sent us a letter in which he very consciously made an offer and begged for a speedy and decided answer. He is a very busy man and is in a great hurry to get to Petersburg, so that every moment is precious to him. At first, of course, we were greatly surprised. It has all happened so quickly and unexpectedly. We thought and talked it over the whole day. He is a well-to-do man to be depended upon. He has 2 posts in the government and has already made his fortune. It is true that he is 45 years old, but he is a fairly prepossessing appearance and might still be thought attractive by women, and he is altogether a very respectable and presentable man, only he seems a little morose and somewhat conceited. But possibly that may only be the impression he makes at first sight. And beware, dear Rodya, when he comes to Petersburg, and as he shortly will do, beware of judging him too harshly and severely as your way is. If there is anything you do not like him at first sight, I give you this warning, although I feel sure that he will make a favorable impression of you. Moreover, in order to understand any man, one must be deliberate and careful to avoid forming prejudices and mistaken ideas, which are very difficult to correct and get over afterwards. And Pyotr Petrovich, judging by many indications, is a thoroughly estimable man. At his first visit, indeed, he told us that he was a practical man, but he shares, as he expressed it, many of the convictions of our most rising generation, as he is an opponent of all prejudices. He said a good deal more, for he seems a little conceited and likes to be listened to, but this is scarcely a vice. I, of course, understood very little of it, but Donia explained to me that though he is not a man of great education, he's clever and seems to be good-natured. You know your sister's character, Rodya. She is resolute, sensible, patient, and generous girl, but she has a passionate heart, as I know very well. Of course, there is no great love either for his side, or on hers. On his side, on hers, but Donia is a clever girl and has the heart of an angel, and will make it her duty to make her husband happy, who on his side will make her happiness his care. Of that we have no good reason to doubt, though it must be admitted that matter has been arranged in great haste. Besides, he is a man of great prudence, and he will see to be sure of himself that his happiness will be more secure the happier Donia is with him. And as for some defects of character, for some habits, and even certain differences of opinion, which indeed are inevitable even in the happiest of marriages, Donia has said that, as regards all that, she relies on herself, that there is nothing to be uneasy about, and that she is ready to put up with a great deal, if only their future relationships can be an honorable and a straightforward one. He struck me, for instance, at first as rather abrupt, but that may well come from his being an outspoken man. And that is no doubt how it is. For instance, at his second visit, after he had received Donia's consent, in the course of conversation he declared that before making Donia's acquaintance, he had made up his mind to marry a girl of good reputation, without dowry, and above all, one who had experienced poverty, because, as he explained, a man ought not to be indebted to his wife, but that it is better for a wife to look upon her husband as her benefactor. I must add that he has expressed it more nicely and politely than I have done, for I have forgotten his actual phrases and only remembered the meaning. And besides, it was obviously not a shade of design, but slipped out in the heat of conversation, so that he tried afterward to correct himself and smooth it over, but all the same, it did strike me as somewhat rude, as I said so afterwards to Donia. But Donia was vexed, and answered that words are not deeds, and that, of course, it's perfectly true. Donia did not sleep all night before she made up her mind. and thinking that I was asleep, she got out of her bed and was walking up and down the room all night. At last, she knelt down before the icon and prayed long and fervently, and in the morning she told me that she had decided. I have mentioned already that Pyotr Petrovich is just setting off to Petersburg, where he has a great deal of business and he wants to open a large bureau. He has been occupied for many years in conducting civil and commercial litigation, and only the other day he won an important case. He has to be in Petersburg because he has an important case before the Senate. So, Rodia dear, he may be one of the greatest use to you, in every way indeed. And Donia and I have agreed that from this very day you could definitely enter upon your career and might consider that your future is marked out and assured for you. Oh, if only this comes to pass. This would be such a benefit that we could only look upon it as providential blessing. Donia is dreaming of nothing else. We have ventured already to drop a few words on the subject to Pyotr Petrovich. He was cautious in his answer and said that, of course, as he could not get on without a secretary, it would be better to be paying a salary to a relation than to a stranger, if only the former were fitted for the duties, as though there could be doubt of your being fitted. But then he expressed doubts whenever your studies at the university would leave you time to work at his office. The matter dropped for the time, but Donia is thinking of nothing else now. She had been in sort of fever for the last few days, and has already made a regular plan for you becoming, in the end, an associate and even a partner in Pyotr Petrovich's business, which might well be, seeing as that you are a student of law. I'm in complete agreement with her, Rodia, and share all her plans and hopes, and think there is every probability of realizing them. And in spite of Pyotr Petrovich's evasiveness, very natural at present since he does not know you, Donia is firmly persuaded that she will gain everything by her good influence over her future husband. This she is reckoning upon. Of course, we are careful not to talk of any of these more remote plans to Pyotr Petrovich, especially of your becoming his partner. He is a practical man and might take this very coldly. It might all seem to him simply a daydream. Nor has either Donia and I breathed a word to him of great hopes we have of his helping us to pay for your university studies. We have not spoken of it in the first place, because it will come to pass on itself later on, and he will no doubt without wasting words, offer to do it of himself, as though he could refuse Donia that. The more readily, since you may be by your own efforts become his right hand in the office, and receive this assistance not as a charity, but as a salary earned by your own hard work. Donia wants to arrange it all like this, and I quite agree with her. And we have not spoken of our plans for another reason. That is because I particularly wanted for you to feel on an equal footing when you first meet him. When Donia spoke to him with enthusiasm about you, he answered that one could never judge of a man without seeing him close, for oneself, and that he looked forward to forming his own opinion when he makes your acquaintance. Do you know, my precious Rodia, I think that perhaps for some reason, nothing to do with Pyotr Petrovich though, simply for my personal, perhaps old womanish fancies, I should do better to go on living by myself, apart, than with them, after the wedding. I'm convinced that he will be generous and delicate enough to invite me and to urge me to remain with my daughter for the future, and if she has said nothing about it hitherto, it is simply because it has been taken for granted. But I shall refuse. I have noticed more than once in my life that husbands don't quite get on with their mothers-in-law, and I don't want to be the least bit in anyone's way, and for my own sake too, would rather be quite independent, so long as I have a crust of bread of my own, and such children as you and Donia. If possible, I would settle somewhere near you for the most joyful piece of news, dear Rodia. I have kept for the end of my letter. Know then, my dear boy, that we may perhaps be all together in very short time, and maybe embrace one another after a separation of almost 3 years. It is settled for certain that Donia and I are to set off for Petersburg. Exactly when I don't know, but very, very soon. Possibly in a week. It all depends on Pyotr Petrovich, who will let us know when we had the time to look around in Petersburg. When he had the time to look around him in Petersburg. To suit his own arrangements, he is anxious to have the ceremony as soon as possible, even before the last of Our Lady if it could be managed, or if that is too soon to be ready immediately after. Oh, with that happiness, I shall press you my heart. Donia is all excitement at the joyful thought of seeing you. She said one day in joke that she would be ready to marry Pyotr Pyotrovich for that alone. She is an angel. She is not writing anything to you now, and has only told me to write that she has so much to tell you, that she is not going to take up her pen now, for a few lines would tell you nothing, and it would only mean upsetting herself. She bids me to send you her love and innumerable kisses, but although we shall be meeting so soon, perhaps I shall send you as much money as I can in a day or two. Now that everyone has heard that Donia is to marry Pyotr Pyotrovich, my credit has suddenly improved, and I know that Afanasy Ivanovich will trust me now, even to 75 rubles of the security of my pension, so that perhaps I shall be able to send you 25 or even 30 rubles. I would send you more, but I am uneasy about our traveling expenses. For though Pyotr Pyotrovich has been so kind as to undertake part of the expenses of the journey, that is to say, he had taken upon himself the convenience of our bags and big trunk, which will be conveyed through some acquaintance of his, we must reckon upon some expenses on our arrival in Petersburg, where we can't be left without a halfpenny, at least for the first few days. But we have calculated it all, Donian and I, to the last penny, and we see that the journey will not cost very much. It is only 90 versts from us to the railway, and we have come to an agreement with the driver we know, so as to be in readiness. And from there, Donia and I can travel quite comfortably third class, so that I may very likely be able to send you not 25 but 30 rubles, but enough. I have covered 2 sheets already, and there is no space left for more. Our whole history, but so many events have happened. And now, my precious Rodia, I embrace you and send you a mother's blessing till we meet. Love Donia, your sister, Rodia. Love her as she loves you, and understand that she loves you beyond everything, more than herself. She is an angel, and you, Rodia, you are everything to us. Our one hope, our one consolation. If only you are happy, we shall be happy. Do you still say your prayers, Rodia, and believe in the mercy of our Creator and our Redeemer? I'm afraid in my heart that you may have been visited by the new spirit of infidelity that is abroad today. If it's so, I pray for you. Remember, my dear boy, how in your childhood, when your father was living, you used to lisp your prayers at my knee, and how happy we all were those days. Goodbye till we meet again. I embrace you warmly, with many kisses. You are still deaf. Pulcheria Raskolnikov. Almost from the first while he read the letter, Raskolnikov's face was wet with tears, but when he finished this, his face was pale and distorted and bitter. Wrathful and malignant smile was on his lips. He laid his head down on his threadbare, dirty pillow and pondered a long time. His heart was beating violently, and his brain was in a turmoil. At last, he felt cramped and stifled in the little yellow room that was like a cupboard or a box. His eyes and his mind craved for space. He took up his hat and went out, this time without dread of meeting anyone. He has forgotten his dread. He turned in the direction of Vasilievsky Ostrov, walking along Vasilievsky's Prospect, as though hastening on some business, but he walked, as his habit was, without noticing his way, muttering and even speaking aloud to himself. To the astonishment of the passers-by, many of them took him drunk. Okay then. And that was a thing. Apologies, I did not intend to sound it out like that. But that was indeed a thing. What will happen next? Who knows? We'll see next time, honestly. I'm gonna be done for today. I'm now going to be looking for someone to raid, actually. I do not know who exactly. I do not know yet. But if anyone has any particular inclinations. I'm very available for suggestions. I do want to ask you: did you enjoy the first reading stream? I hope it was enjoyable for you guys. It's a little different from what I usually do, considering things I usually play games, I usually talk loudly, I usually am very loud. I am usually very over the place, really. So, I do hope you had enjoyed yourself.
Not knowing knots is cool.
I did not know because I know knots. Because not knowing knots is cool. Okay. Damn it, man. Okay. Well, still. Yeah, you kind of messed it up. Yeah, you did. You just a little bit. Just a tiny bit. You had messed up just a tiny little bit. I should be. I did not know. I did. Should be. I did not know. I do not. Cause not knowing nuts is cool. English language. You sure vex me much. The English language vexes me lots. Dissimilarly sounding words, dissimilarly pronounced things, all the random bullshit in an English language. Though I shouldn't complain, considering Russian isn't that much different. We're also very complicated. So, this has been the start of Crime and Punishment. It's been very relaxed, very interesting, very, I would say very productive. And I already know the person who I will be rating today.
Because not knowing knots is not a problem.
Seems like the TTS is having a much different time, much better time reading it out loud than I do. To be fair, though, it's a robot, so I would imagine it would have a bit of a different and easier time reading such things. But yes, alas, this is where we must conclude for today. It has been a shorter-ish stream. I'm gonna wait for a little bit until the stream starts of the person who I'm gonna be rating it. Pee poo poo. But yes, I'm gonna reiterate something. There will be an announcement soon. Something I cannot quite disclose as of yet.
Not.
But it is an excitement announcement indeed. I will be. It will be an interesting announcement. That announcement will be followed by a different clock. You're enjoying this, aren't you? This announcement will be followed by a subathon, because I do indeed need the moolah, so to speak, and I would like to have security. So there will be a subathon, and there will be a massive change in myself and my branding. You will see. Thing is, I'm very excited for it. And finally, after that change, Sympathon, exactly. Finally, after this change, you can expect me to sing, because I will be having the production value to do so. That will be interesting, because there will be covers coming from my face, and that is quite a prospect, I want to say. A prospect that I did not expect to have anytime soon. But it will be...
Product this nuts.
I fear that I have given you too much power by persuading you to use this command, Anko. I have fear that I have given you too much power. Well, I do. Though, to be fair, I have given my chat too much power.
I feel like Observer will take me down.
I will not take you down, honestly, no. I have done it to myself. I have done this disservice to myself, and I have done this travesty to myself, and I shall bear all the responsibility for the unfortunate chatter in the background that will be uttered by the TTS engine. Just don't say anything offensive, right? Just don't say anything offensive.
Please, I'm locked in the basement. Release me before he notices.
No, 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 no. No basement, no basement. And if there was such a thing as basement, it would be locked tight on 2 keys. So nobody, theoretically, nobody will be able to come and save you. Theoretically, because that is like a special, that is a very special basement. Alas, alas, let us raid. Let us raid.
Would you say it would be double knotted kappa?
Exactly. Ah, Ruzu. Ah, Ruzuzu. Ha ha ha. Okay, I cannot do that, apparently. Interesting. Let us try to do this then instead.
So I
We
can't
shall
tell
be-
my jokes through here?
You can tell every joke you have, my dear friend, through here. Tell them all. I implore you to joke around. I implore you to have fun. This is a Ruzu. She's one of the first people I had watched in my in my journey. Just don't be mean. Don't be mean, and we'll be fine. I'm glad I have streamed today because this was fun. This was fun reading. I hope you enjoyed yourself listening to my reading. I hope a few of you had managed to fall asleep in the process. I would be very glad if you did. And I'm gonna
I'm not
see you.
mean, I'm Uncle Unco.
Yes, exactly. And I will be seeing you tomorrow. The raid message, and I implore you to actually write the raid message this time around, would be greetings from the library. Hibiki! Hey, I've been already finishing
Raid this
the stream.
nuts.
And just throw in some emojis at the end of this, like heart emojis.
Hit 5 key 5.
Hibiki! Sorry, I basically just finished. You can always write me if you want to. See you guys later. The raid will start in a moment. Say hello to Ruzu for me.
What? I didn't say that.
I will see you on Thursday. Bye bye.